until 2009, we never even heard the term called big data. But why it has become so popular these days? So that you have to question and then start looking in that direction and how this is going to benefit us. Why we need to collect data from various different sources, all the public sites, that could be Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Why we are collecting, why we are trying to analyze, and then what is the motive, how this is going to bring more business for your organization. So this is the most important. Otherwise, there is no fun in digging and all that. We are pretty okay with the data warehousing concepts, all these years, and then data analytics is the new term. And what is that data warehousing could not do, which is addressed by data analytics. So, as analytics, this is data warehousing is going to show you how the values are, and you can come out with the nice reports using tools like Cognos or reporting tools like Tableau. You are representing the existing corporate's data and coming out with the existing things, but not good on predictions. So today, let's look at how the analytics can change this paradigm. Why we are collecting data and processing it for what benefit? I just, whenever I change the slide, I'll give you briefly about 5 seconds. You can go through the matter. I try to reduce on the screen so that I can, you can hear me easily. I'll just give you a little time. I hope you already went through this terminology, machine learning and then analytics. Anyone doing machine learning here? Please raise your hand. You are doing already, excellent. In your case, what type of data you are trying to do?
Yeah, social media.
Social media data. Okay. What tools you are using?
Mahout.
Mahout, excellent. Any preference in choosing Mahout?
Open source and works on Hadoop.
Works on Hadoop. Excellent. Okay. Ever considered R?
Yeah, but Mahout is seamless, but we have to planning to go to
So you have all the drivers, all the connectors
the R
for Mahout.
Mahout, yeah, excellent.
What type of connectors you are using?
It's basically seamless because it is from Hadoop ecosystem.
Okay.
So we don't need any special connectors for it.
Okay.
So it provides.
So it is taking the data from Hadoop HDFS. Okay. So before we go into technology part, I want you to understand few case studies and use cases. Ever heard swine flu in the year 2003 that it's a big problem? Sorry, 2009. CDC had no idea how to handle it. There were like millions of phone calls, and they were not sure which area is affected most. And they have approached social sites like #1 Google and Twitter in order to find out where the problems are. And surprisingly, they all came from, as you can very clearly see here, this is a widespread. And states California and then Texas, these falling into widespread swine flu cases. The way it realized about this fact, wherever the searches are coming from, so Google, you are searching and it is capturing all searching data, and again they do analytics, apply analytics on top of it, come out with what type of searches going on for that day from this region, and what was the major search criteria. And with that help, CDC realized how the vaccines from different states, how they can move into these affected areas. Otherwise, they will have to wait for at least 2 weeks in order to get the data from different hospitals. Because hospitals, they have their own processing time and all that. So every time it cannot spend 2 weeks. So thank God, this the social search engines came out, and especially Twitter, he came out with where the searches are from, geographical locations, and then finally, CDC put that is Center of Diagnostics Diseases. That's one thing. And this is pretty interesting story. Maybe we could never imagine this thing. Target is just like our Kmart or whatever the store. In India, you can compare with the hypermarket in orbit mall. So this is pretty interesting. Try to understand what's going on. They have about 500 plus stores across US. And interestingly, a neighborhood, girl has received an email, a regular mail, coupon mails about diapers, and then crib, baby, baby cot or whatever you say. And then father looked at this mailer and immediately he rushed to the store nearby Target, 2 kilometers radius, and he got into the store and started talking to the manager. Why I have received that mail where my daughter is still in high school. This looks more for pregnant ladies. You're trying to send us cribs and then diapers and things like that. And then the store manager apologized. Sorry, it was by mistake. We didn't do it, but my corporate probably has done it. It is on her name only, his daughter's name only. And then again he went back. After 2 months, manager again called him to apologize, to just make sure the relationship is not going to be spoiled. And father said, well, later I realized that daughter has become pregnant. Here, we need to really understand, Target knew it better than father, before than father, that she became pregnant. How? Well, Target did a lot of analytics based on customers who are purchasing what. And they could see, especially tablets like magnesium and then calcium and also unscented wipe, the lotions, all these things they usually purchased by pregnant. So based on, every customer has a card, and then whenever they swipe, they are getting the information. And especially you are being a female and purchasing these kind of things, and you are above 16 or whatever they guess. So they guessed it that yes, she has become pregnant, which was not known to father. And they received, and later store realized maybe it is not a good idea simply throw a mailers like that saying diapers and cribs and all that. They came up with another style where they have regular coupons including Coke or potatoes and all that, and in between they insert other things. So whenever any person receives this mail, they don't necessarily think that they've been targeted. It's just like, okay, by chance it happened. So analytics is really powerful. We think that people are not doing special marketing or something. No, they are very focused based on the purchases that they make and the timings they come in, the medicines they are getting in. All these things matter a lot. I found this case study is very, very interesting. Another thing. Well, every word that comes out of Obama during his 2012 elections, it's not his words, it's his analytical team's work. They hired a special agency in Chicago and they did a lot of analytics, and they found out which state is on already Obama's side or not. And they're not interested in complete advertisement, wasting money on advertisement when the people are completely on his side. Neither the other way. They're only targeting who are kind of in the middle, up in the wall. So that's the audience. Those are the targeted audience. So Obama's analytics studied who are thinking about Obama, or should we do it or not, because they collect a lot of statistics, again, like as I said, from Facebook and other social media. They did a lot of analysis, and they're focusing on completely on particular segment, including TV advertisements. They don't spend too much on the advertisement for the whole country. because they already know that this state is completely for Obama and the other state is completely against. So they're not wasting their time and money and all that. But people who are like in between, yes, they are very much targeted. And again, statistics have played a major role. And Dan Wagner is the key guy who is only 30 years old, based in Chicago. He had 30 people working under him, doing analytics, collecting the data. Well, here 3 words: capture, and then analyze, and then act. So these are the 3 words that they believe in. Capture, predict, and then act. Capture, predict, and CPA. In US, CPA means chartered accountants, but the CPA in terminology of analytics means capture, predict, prediction. Analytics can predict, based on the data, based on the age group, based on the so many different things. And please search in the internet also Obama 2002 election campaigning data analytics, and you can see wonderful information. Again, people talk about big data hours and hours, but why it is happening, how it can really help us out in different market segments. We already observed 3 different areas. One is that this swine flu thing. Second one, the target is doing analytics. And by the way, the target in that particular area, they have already defeated Walmart. This also you can observe in the research analytics. So they focus on which market segment and all that, and they try to decrease the price or increase the price. We think that it's by chance happening. No. There is so much brain behind it working on all this, and including this election campaign. Well, this is also another interesting story. Ever heard about from US here? Been there? Okay. Anyway. Osco Drugs, it's like a drug shop where you can purchase your medicine and also little other shopping. And they did lot of, it's a 1915 drugstore. It's almost 100 years old by the next 3 years. And they have more than 600 stores across the US. And they did lot of analytics and came out with a special pattern, interesting pattern. Analytics is nothing but finding the patterns and giving a shape, a business shape to the pattern. And the pattern is, let's say there's a newly born baby, and then father and mother, and then fathers are usually set up to bring diapers. And whenever these fathers go out for shopping for diapers, this Osco observed, as you can, I don't know whether if you can really see, these are all diapers. Baby diapers, Huggies, all these diapers. And right next to it, these are all the alcohol, beer bottles. And these fathers who are in early 30s and are definitely below 35, they are also bringing a 6-pack can or a 12-pack can, things like that. So surprisingly, this pattern came out for this. So ever since they realized that this can be a very big business model, they clubbed these 2 together. In fact, you can observe that these 2 are, it's a big store, then Oscar is a big store, but they have placed it in such a way that father is nicely attracted. Or maybe he's thinking today, if that is placed across several feet, I may not even walk, but this is tempting, more tempting. It is about how to win the customer's heart. And this is a very good example. You can also search it, simply type Osco space, B and diaper. B, diaper is the keyword. How I found out, please don't ask me, but I do a lot of research here. This is another good case. Again, analytics. We are not talking about data warehousing. Data warehousing, we have already sales in place, and then we are doing reporting on it. But we are not doing any reporting here. We are only trying to find patterns. Again, this is only a co-occurrence. There may be no meaning behind it. It's our finding. This is an interesting pattern that we found. Or an Edzion. Ever heard about anyone? Oh, you did? Oh, good. What is it?
He's a professor.
Excellent. Yes, he's a professor, by the way. Yeah. He did his bachelor's from Harvard, computers, and then master's and PhD also in Carnegie Mellon. And he's a professor, associate professor. not full-time, part-time professor. And this guy, his brother was getting married. It's a nice story. Brother was getting married, and he knew it 6 months before. So he wanted to buy the ticket. He did. Marriage was sometime in October, but he purchased the ticket in the February month itself. And then he happened to be at airport waiting for the flight in the lounge. And he met other passengers, co-passengers. And they were running into the discussion. He found out that the other passenger got a much better deal. Almost, he purchased from New York to Los Angeles for $450 because brother stays in Los Angeles. And the other passenger got it only for $350 2 weeks ago. And he got right. Oh, what is that? I purchased my ticket 6 months ago and paid $100 more. I thought I'm genius to figure out my travel plan and can get the best deal out of it. And later he inquired with a few others, and his finding was he has paid the highest amount. Please, you can be away from your cell phone for a couple of minutes. Please concentrate. I spent a lot of time in preparation and all that. So yeah. So think about it. He did a lot of 6 months of home, and then he ended up paying $100 more. So what is this? This is not right. So he got angry about the whole thing, and he wanted to come out with a special website which can forecast. The company name is Faircast, but what it does is forecasts the price on so-and-so date. For example, you want to travel from so-and-so city, living on so-and-so date. It can advise you whether this is the best time to buy the ticket or not. Or it can also mention, no, hold on, like buy right now. No, wait for some time. So this is a very interesting case. And ever heard about Bing, Microsoft search engine Bing? And they made it part of Bing. Well, of course, Microsoft purchased the company for $150 million. This is so cool. He came out with a great idea after going through paying $100 more for the flight, and then he designed the whole thing. But the way he collects the data from different airlines, started off a very small company, but trying to gather so much data, and based on the pricing, he comes out with a pattern. And he says, whatever the suggestions that he makes, buy now or wait or whatever, 70 to 75% of the time, yes, it is a successful model. That means, whatever the outcome site says, yes, it's proven to be right. And the price variation could be anywhere between 10 to 20%. So this is worth it. These are the passengers who have definitely long term. I want to go tomorrow, then I really don't want to visit these kind of sites. But I have 2 weeks, travel, then I can nicely go and find out whether this is the best time to buy or not. Faircast is one good thing that you can. So again, analytics. Analytics plays a very big role because they need to collect the data and process it and come out with whether this is the right time to buy or not. This is not data warehousing, by the way. And people who are working on the data warehousing, I tell you, man, analytics is the next thing, and you have to seriously consider thinking about in these directions. Well, we studied 5 years. I have one more review study. I can share it with you. In African countries, they have tribes. They are like very, and for some reason they fight. They end up killing people and all that stuff. And the government appointed one agency to find out when this is going to happen, likely to happen. And this agency did lot of research, and surprisingly came out with one pattern. Whenever there is a spike in phone cards are usually available for $5, $10, something like that. Whenever there is a spike in the phone card, then the war is taking place. And interesting thing here to observe, there are no phone calls much during that war period. So why people are buying the phone calls when they are not really calling? That's a different story. So in analytics, correlation is one thing, causation is another thing. We usually teach our kids, always ask why, always ask why. Whenever something comes up, don't just leave it, but question it and find out the answer. Whereas in analytics, causation may not be answered. Correlation can be captured, pattern can be captured, but answers may not suit the real world. So again, here also the one which is not on the board, but yeah, phone cards. They're purchasing very seriously on the phone cards, but they're not really making the phone calls. They could observe some part. So this is the pattern. Again, government can take the decision on improving their security or policing, all that, based on the number of phone calls being purchased. So that's one more thing also. One bank observed, after doing a lot of analytics, who is paying the monthly mortgage or whatever, or who is paying defaulters. Hope, are you all okay? You're following easily? Yeah, who is defaulters? So they got an idea. They got all their customers' data from utility vendors. Utility vendor could be the local electricity company or water or whatever the utilities, and they got the payment details, and then they tried to match with the customers, and then found one interesting pattern. The pattern is, again, guys who are paying their utility bills on a Saturday morning are never defaulters. What do you mean? Well, guys, even on a weekend day, he is not like drunk or something. He is nicely taking his day and then being online and then paying his utility bills. And that means he is a serious person. He is a methodological person, so he is not going to default the bank. So for him, yes, banks don't mind to give additional loan or whatever it is, a bigger car or whatever it is. Again, the pattern is very interesting. How many of you heard about this? Saturday bill payers are never defaulters. That is the thing. You can also search on the net. Okay, so I'll just leave you for a second here. Corporates are trying to come out with the decisions, but have no idea what type of data they have, or what kind of data they require, and how to capture the data. Again, I mentioned you three things: capture, predict, act. Capture, predict, act. But unfortunately, we don't have enough data here and how to do it. Okay. There is always a gap, between getting the data and performing the analytics, because the data may be not sufficient or too much data to process. Timely, you won't be able to deliver. Say, I have a supermarket chain only in the East Coast. Say about for 10 states or so. Connecticut, New York, Ohio, something like that. But if I go out there and get the data from Facebook, which is giving the entire world, that is too much for us. So again, I have to come out with the filtering things, based on East Coast region, and then based on a particular salary slab, because we are not serving, too high community, neither too low community. We are targeting the average income people. So these are all very important. So that's filling up the gap. Make sure that you get the data right. And then get the data. So while you are trying to get all this data, obviously you cannot go for a regular transaction-oriented database like Oracle or Informix, Sybase, SQL Server or something like that. Big data has answered all this. Big data thanks to Hadoop and then ecosystem. Big data is not built for transactional things. Big data's main criteria is only for analytics or reporting, because you have all kinds of data, unstructured data. The single most important asset for any organization today is what? Anyone can guess it? The single most asset for any organization is data. There is no second thought in it, data. In fact, the formulas also have changed. Previously, we used to say return on investment. Now they say return on data, because they are collecting data and how the returns are. So how much we are spending on collecting the data. That could be money that you are spending on Facebook, Twitter, because they are selling the public data to you. Of course, with an agreement, legal agreement between, because you cannot misutilize the data. So the amount that you are spending including your infrastructure cost and also your team cost for all your statisticians and analysts, all that, and then how long it is going to take, and then what type of decisions you can make. So data becomes very important. With the higher velocity, greater varieties of data, and gigabytes are coming in daily basis, or it could be even terabytes too. I don't have to tell you, majority of you are already having some big data knowledge. Only 2% of data happened earlier. 98% is only after big data. 98%. And this curve is going like tan 80. I'm sure tan 80, all of your variety, velocity and volume, big, it is so big. You may not even able to handle it unless you are properly organizing the data and filtering the data that you are only interested in. So, how do we do it? HDFS is a file system. I came from Unix background. That was in year 1990. So we install Sun Solaris, all these operating systems and create a small file system. But now you are talking about, for instance, Google has come out with an infrastructure of 4,500 servers going with HDFS file system. Single large file system on 4,500 servers. That's an unbelievably large environment. Well, every company may not require it. Google is the size of internet, you can obviously imagine. So, but yes, HDFS is a distributed file system and allowing you to create the data across multiple servers with the fault tolerance, with the availability in mind. So even if one server goes down, yes, you don't have any kind of downtime. You can still continue with whatever the big data operations that you are doing. So HDFS MapReduce is like a Java program you can think about, and mapping so much source and getting it down to what your required data is. It's like filtering kind of thing you can imagine. And then it's a programming language. Every Java developer has to go through MapReduce thing. This is a combination. Your HDFS and MapReduce is like treated as a set, and we call it as a Hadoop. Okay. Think MapReduce may be a programmer, a good experienced programmer can write, but I'm not a Java programmer. I'm coming from SQL experience, like Oracle SQL or SQL Server thing, whereas I'm very familiar with like writing SQL statements, and you can still do it because Big Latin came out with an interactive way of converting your SQL statements to MapReduce. So imagine like this: I have three things: Hadoop, and then MapReduce, and then Pig. Where here we can nicely write our SQL statements, which gets converted as MapReduce programs, and then you are getting the data from your HDFS file system. So even if you are not aware of Java programming, by simply writing your own SQL statements in a Pig is a software which is also part of Hadoop ecosystem. Yes, you can get your data from big data database. Hive is more like a data warehousing thing where you can actually create your tables. HDFS is not exactly tables, you are storing data, all kinds of data, whereas Hive, yes, it even supports your relational kind of thing, and then you can write your SQL statements on top of Hive. Pig converts the statements, where Hive can directly work with the statements. Mahout, as he said, it's a machine learning, and if you ask me, would you go in direction of Mahout or R? R is another thing. R is not part of Hadoop ecosystem. It can either work with Hadoop or can also work without Hadoop. So why would I choose Mahout? R is a programming. They say language, but I say it's an environment. R is a complete environment.
A library.
Library. It's a set of libraries. 5,000 libraries built in. And R offers you machine learning, statistics, and also visuals. It can nicely come out with the graphs, so you don't have to purchase any third-party graphing softwares like Tableau or Spotify or something like that. So anyway, the discussion is now between Mahout and R. In simplest words, I can mention like this. In case of Mahout, you still have to write Java coding in order to access your data. And because Java is not exactly meant for statistics, it is slightly cumbersome. Whereas R is already meant for statistics. There is no other thing that you do with R. So you can nicely write, for example, matrix. I have 3 by 3 matrix or 4 by 4 matrix, and you want to multiply R transpose, R inverse, whatever it is. So R operations are much more targeted for finding statistics, where Mahout is like a machine learning. Of course, it is also the same thing, but you need to be more creative or come out with the Java coding and all that. So R is the best suited program, which is outside Hadoop, whereas Mahout is part of Hadoop. So as he said, that's the reason I asked you that question, what kind of connectors you are using. He says it's seamless, because Mahout is meant to work in big data, where R requires some connectors. So again, that will be your organization's decisions whether to go in Mahout direction. Again, today's session is on analytics, so I'm not going to talk too much on HDFS or other things. Analytics, with respect to analytics, which one is the best one? Which are free of cost? Again, there are 2 choices. One is R, and another one is Mahout. People have different choices, but I stick myself to R because it's a natural programming environment for calculations. Scoop, well, this is how you are going to get your data from your relational databases. Scoop is very easy to use and can work with the major databases, including Oracle, SQL Server, and IBM DB2, all these things. So it can transfer data between your traditional RDBMSs to big data. Whereas if you're talking about non-relational databases, that could be your Twitter, your Facebook, any kind of social networking sites, or machine logs, blogs, anything like that, or sensor data, or network data, network logs. For that kind of things, which are unrelational data, then yes, there is another tool provided by Hadoop ecosystem called Fluke. And then this can get the data from, okay, so Hadoop ecosystem, again, you don't see R in this because R is not part of Hadoop. Scoop, as I said, it can get the data from your relational databases, and this is from your other data sources. And HDFS is where you store the data. MapReduce is the Java code which reaches the data in order to process it. It's a processing thing, data processing. Hive, well, by the way, I don't mind giving you the complete PPT, so I mean, if you want, you can take. But if you're interested, please email me. I'll forward the complete presentation. It is meant for you. Hive, Mahout, script, big. It's a language. Big Latin is a scripting language. If you are aware of shell scripting or Perl, it's a similar thing, very similar thing. So which one should I choose? Well, that question should come out with what type of things you are expecting from big data. Based on that, yes, we can answer. Are you going with the big or Hive or Mahout or R or whatever it is? Until this, there is no major decision making. Until this, it's pretty much set. Above this line, yes, what exactly we are trying to do. Some data is coming within from our own infrastructures. That could be your payroll systems, your accounting systems, or ERPs, within the building. We say on premises. So we have data from on premises, and some data we are purchasing from various sources. I'll give you that information too. But we are paying some money and getting the data. For example, I want to find out sentiment analysis. Now I want to find out what people are talking about Bank of America. And then I can go through the complete social medias and find out, yes, Bank of America is good or something like that. I'll give you one simple example, nothing to relate. I did another program. An interesting thing. Whenever you go out of station and plan to use a credit card, you're supposed to update your bank. For instance, Bank of America, update the bank that I have this travel plan and I'm visiting Mexico, whatever the city. So that they will check mark in your profile, they'll check mark you are on travel between so and so dates. Assuming you haven't done it and suddenly you landed in some other city, not even city, some other country, and swipe your card in a hotel, your credit card, got accepted by the way, and then you came out to the ATM, trying to draw dollars, $100, whatever, because you're trying to roam and pay the taxi guy or whatever. And then analytics at the bank realize that you're trying to swipe the credit card in ATM debit card in another country, but they already received one transaction from the hotel. Hotel is different. The reason it has accepted, they can still find out who are you and all that. Whereas ATM, once the money is gone, which is directly from your account, it's definitely gone. So they are trying to see whether you have really went outside the country, because the correlation between your credit card and then debit card, and then they could match it. Yes, looks like the guy is definitely out of Hyderabad and in another country, and looks like it's a valid thing, and this whole thing done in a couple of seconds, and then you can withdraw your cash. We think it's just happening. No. So much brain is working behind the screen. Anyway, so yes, you need to purchase the data. How they came to know, or bank can also find out whether you are on travel plan. Maybe you have never informed the bank, but they found out from your Facebook account that you are visiting Mexico. And when they receive the transaction using ATM, credit card and all that, yes, it is true that you are out of Hyderabad. So purchasing data definitely makes sense. Getting the data into their database and then into Hadoop database, and then finding out the facts. These are the companies which provide you data. There could be more, but primarily and at a cost. But again, if you simply go there, I'm ready to pay $1,000. Can I get this data? No, that is not that simple. You have to be a valid customer and make sure that it is not being utilized for any violence or any 9/11 kind of cases or something. Make sure that you are using it for a genuine cause. And if you want to move on, just the company names, DNA, Spinner, data saved. Okay. So what type of data we are getting into big data? Big data is nothing but collection of data, structured, unstructured collection of data. And the green things we are purchasing from other sources. These are purchasing from other sources. So the blue, data is actually inside the building, on-premises data. All your CRMs, point of sales, all that. BI, data warehouse, a lot more. The list is pretty simple, but in the reality there could be much more. I'm sure expert like what type of all the data that you can gather. Again, this is all coming under capture. We are capturing the data and then predicting that we still not there yet. We are capturing and simply storing in the big data. And technology stack. I'm sure most of you heard about Hutton Books. There are two commercial companies which are being accepted industry-wide, and one is Hutton Books, another one is Cloudera, and then these offer a great platform because I don't want to download some version of a Hadoop, some version of Hive, and some version of Pig, and later run into problems. They are not getting compiled smoothly, and all these things. So the best thing when you go for this commercial, but they're not as expensive as Teradata or something like that, because they also download the same thing, but package it well. They offer a few more libraries, and all that. And then Hutton Works is one good thing that you can go. and that also works on Windows platform, where Cloudera predominantly works on Linux platform. Anyway, so you are getting the data into Hadoop environment using whatever Hortonworks, or that could be Cloudera, whatever, and then doing different things using SAS Analytics or R. The major two companies which offer analytics at cost are two. One is SAS and another one is IBM SPSS. These two are very expensive and they have their own algorithms inside. But the other two ones which comes with Hadoop infrastructure, as you mentioned, Mahout, and second one is R. We think R is like only 2 years old, sorry man. It started in 1993 and it's a pretty evolved product. It's been 20 years and you're looking at it, is it not 20 years?
No, we used it in a different context.
Okay.
And we felt it is difficult, so we discarded using it. So I'm just looking at him because we did a wrong thing.
Okay.
But I'll explain it later.
Right. Robert Gentleman is his last name, by the way. And then Ras Ikata, and these two guys came out with the programming language R on top of S. S is the original programming language, and on top of it, they came out with the R. This is purely statistical environment. You don't do other things, just like C programming or BASIC or COBOL. You don't do other things. You just do statistics. And these statistics are meant to come out with analytics or predictions. How do you predict? Anyway, that's the top line we are more interested in. Some of them are only reporting tools like Tableau. Well, let's look at this. I have regular relational databases here. These are companies' databases, and this is my social networking environment, including Facebook, YouTube, whatever. And then data logs could be the network log, server logs, or anything, blogs, anything, text-based. Those are all text-based. And I'm getting my tool, again, Hadoop environment tool, called Flu, in order to get the data and store it into HDFS. And the scope, this is for the RDBMS, whatever we learned in previous slides, again we are trying to pictorially draw it here. And the data is finally coming into my HDFS, MapReduce. And here, these are the three things. You may not agree with me on doing analytics, but what you can do though, you can come out with the select statements and reduce the data which can be an input for your other reporting tools. Hope you understand this. It's not necessarily that the pig is doing the complete analytics. It does it to a certain extent, whereas the other two, yes, they are pure analytics things, Mahout and R. And later, Mahout does not have any visual graphs or something like that. R does. R can do three things: machine learning, and then statistics, and also visual. So I can represent XY coordinates and then come out with the graphs, charts, all kinds of things. Whereas I can still go and purchase, if my budget allows me, other reporting tools like Tableau, Spotfire, things like that, Platform. Those tools are much more zazzy tools. If you have Dumbo end users and they want their graphs in a certain style and all that, yes, these tools can provide. But those tools alone can reach MapReduce or HDFS, but they do not have any algorithms built in. Although they claim they do, please don't fall for it. They don't have special algorithms what R or Mahout is having. So if I purchase, these days any site, big data site, you go to Tableau, advertising crazy. Since last 1.5 months I've been observing, there is no other company spending as much as Tableau. It's a reporting thing, and they're spending in and out. Billions of dollars they are spending on advertisement. But that tool is visually excellent, outstanding product, limited to available data. They don't have math, statistics kind of thing, algorithms, all that stuff. It's a great reporting tool. IBM SPSS. IBM also has acquired Cognos. Are you aware of it? How much? Anyone who can guess?
So, you know it's acquired.
IBM acquired for how much? $5 million. That's unbelievable. Well, of course, in those days, Cognos was doing extremely well 5 years ago. But now, any company IBM purchases pretty much it dies, including Informix. That was in 1999, I guess. Company, they are more interested in getting their customers, not the product. They'll ultimately rub their product on their customers. Anyway, the SaaS business, SaaS is excellent company. In 1976, they have a track record of almost 40 years. The company is into statistics, nothing else. And the other example, what I mentioned you, that bank predictive, all that, they are also offering a software on fraudulent management. So on top of the bank server, the fraudulent manager is a layer which sits, and whenever they receive any transaction, either from credit card or debit card, whatever, they find out whether this transaction is a genuine or not. Simple example I give you. A guy charged his credit card in a store, and 6 hours later, there is another transaction from China. Los Angeles, we observed. I mean, going. We are good. So observe this in Los Angeles. A guy went to a credit card store, and swiped his credit card around 7 p.m. in the evening, and then 6 hours down the line, there is one transaction bank received from China. Obviously, within 6 hours, he cannot be in China, so they rejected the transaction. Later, they found out that that second one was a fraudulent transaction. They have contacted the customer and found out that he is very much in station in Los Angeles only. So someone else got his credit card number and he's given the details like password or somehow. That could be because of spoofing or whatever it is, spoofing. Finally they have the details, but they change the credit card and password immediately. And this SAS, with the help of fraudulent manager, can capture all this kind of information. SAS, that is the company man, but the only thing is it is very expensive. If you have your own analytics team, yeah, and then your target is only to capture your data and predict and act, maybe you can do it in-house. But when you have enough budget and not efficient team, maybe SaaS is the answer for it. SaaS, or even for that matter, IBM. IBM also has another thing called Big Insight. So where it goes through your entire data and finds out the patterns, and then they call it as a golden patterns. As we have discussed, very powerful, not a programming language, but in fact it is an environment. Complete R is offering you an environment. The three different things: machine learning, statistics, and also the visualization, graphs. Based on this programming, predictive analysis or predictive analytics. This is the fundamental difference between data warehousing and this analytics, data analytics. In data warehousing, you are only reading the data and coming out with reports. Last quarter, how were our sales? But using analytics, I'll give you another example. I worked for Warner Brothers. That was around 15 years ago. And we have about 130 stores across US. And my job is to get the data from all the point of sales overnight, load into database. Point of sales NCR machines, either NCR or IBM. There we had only two choices at that time. So whenever the customer purchases, could be positive purchase or negative purchase. A lot of people wonder about what do you mean by negative purchase? Nothing but return merchandise. So we capture all this data from all the 130 stores and store it into the database. And our managers supposed to come out with the predictions on how the sales will be. And the best season is next month, Christmas, December. So let's say I'm going to order 10,000 t-shirts or sweatshirts for the Christmas season. And how am I going to distribute? You want me to come out with an average figure for all my 130 stores? No, that doesn't make sense. Let's go with the past sales of this particular store. For example, Manhattan, New York store definitely has much more sales when compared to a Idaho store, potatoes or something like that, but not much of merchandise. Or somewhere in Denver, Colorado, not much. Yeah, when compared to Los Angeles downtown store, Manhattan store, or something. So we go with the past experience and come out with the predictions. And let's say we have stocked about 1,000 t-shirts in New York. Out of 10,000, we offer 1,000 t-shirts in New York. And this is only for my Christmas sales. And by 20th, yes, we were able to sell all 1,000 t-shirts. Then we all should be excited that we came out with a great figure, and then we were able to sell all the t-shirts. In fact, it's a wrong decision by giving only 1,000 t-shirts, because on 20th itself we were able to sell, and by having even most of people are still walking down and finding out the stock is not there. That is called missed opportunity. And then next time when we come out with analytics, we take this also into consideration. When was the last t-shirt sold during the Christmas season? That means, yes, we definitely have. No. In another store, we offered say 600 t-shirts, but only 200 got sold by end of Christmas. That means 400 t-shirts are lying down, and after Christmas, no one even walks into your shop. All their credit cards are completely full. It might take even 2 months for them to even visit your store. And later, we may have to sell this under the price, nothing but below our cost. So with all these predictions is really important, that otherwise one thing you may have missed opportunity, on another side you are selling it below your cost. So what is that magic figure which can drive the business better? This is another slide where you can understand this is one thing that all of you advise you to strongly visit Revolution. I'm sure majority of you already know, but Revolution R. This R is open software. Anyone can use it completely free of cost. But again, same problem. Just like in Hadoop ecosystem, we decided to either go with Cloudera or Hortonworks. Here also, this Revolution R makes it like a nice package with all the libraries and with some kind of support. If you are stuck or require some more support, yes, Revolution R is a great platform to work with. And they also provide you with the connectors, in order to reach all the various different data sources. And the decisions, yes, you can push it onto your desktops, or laptops, or even iPads. These are the reporting tools. Again, as I mentioned, they don't do any analytics. But you mentioned SAS is analytics. Visual analytics. It's not computational analytics. Based on the provided data, they just show you on the screen in a better way. Otherwise, they are not into pure analytics. SAS business analytics is different, and then statistical analysis is different. So that you need to understand. Tableau is, as I mentioned, they are advertising so much. It's a great software, undoubtedly, but they can only show you based on the data. They don't do any math behind it. Pentao is also, H is silent, by the way. You're not supposed to say Pentaho. It is Pentao platform. What type of challenges we have, for all this analytics? Number one, what type of data we are supposed to capture? Is it timely or not? For example, the decision we are coming out with, for my Christmas, in all our 130 stores, how much stock I need to maintain? This, if you arrive in the month of October or November, this is too late, man. As we are speaking, we are trying to make a decision. me and our senior manager, we are trying to advertise for some date. 28th is our date for whatever the activity. 28th is our date. And my vendor is saying he can only do on 26th. We decided to cancel it because 26th, if we do something, it will not give us any returns by 20. Within 2 days, miracles will not happen. So it's waste of expenditure. So we decided to cancel it. Or we are trying to find another vendor who can do it sooner, on 24th itself, so that you will have 4 days. People can make up their mind and try to, make our events more successful. Timeliness is very important. Going back to my Warner Brothers example, 150 stores, we are trying to cater the T-shirts by so date, Christmas season. But if the believe me, 90% of stock that we order are from other countries. Number one, China, and that would be Indonesia, Malaysia. Only 10% of the goods are manufactured within US. So when these shipments have to come in and all that, you require at least 3 to 4 months lead time. Our managers are busily working, come up with the analytics targeting December months in the June itself. So when they do these orderings on the June, July, by October, yes, the stock should arrive into the warehouse and they should be supplied to all these stores by end of October or early November. And your plan. As you can see, the emails are flooding like anything, including from Tiger Direct. You ever heard about Tiger Direct? Previously known as Circuit City. So anyway, why? Because Sony is giving so much advertisement lately because of Christmas season. So business sense, business analytics. Otherwise, the whole topic is meaningless. It should be timely. So these are all the challenges that every company comes across. Well, we have 1 hour is done. I think I have taken more time from you. Hope you learned at least little from this event. And then thank you very much for showing up today. I enjoyed it. I don't know whether you enjoyed it or not. But any questions, you please. There are more things. If you want, I can mail you.
We can go ahead with the topic if we have. I think we can go ahead.
Pretty much I discussed between the other slides. So these are my details, contact details. You can write up. I don't mind giving you a card after the session is over. Yes, we also train with data. So in case if you have any requirement, including R, Maho, Quick, Hive, all these things. Any questions? Please feel free to ask. I'm sure there are some experience already working on big data analytics. Yeah.
No, we are early birds.
Okay, next time you can email me. So my mail ID is really simple: madhu@wilshiresoft.com. Yeah.
Are you currently doing any projects? I mean, you not divulge the details, but for any big data projects, what kind of projects?
We are into one analytics project, and you must be aware of random forest, techniques and their K-means, So we are trying to implement that. It's too early to go deeper into that stuff because I don't know the crowd's things. Otherwise, I could have done only focus into algorithms. K-means, right? SEM, all these algorithms. Maybe we can plan another session strictly on algorithms. We have one great PhD person working as advisor for us. And it's basically you need to first find out what is your goal. Then later, all these algorithms come into picture. 5,000 libraries we hardly use. I don't think anyone is more interested more than 20 or 30 algorithms. Because these are generic algorithms and they fit. So there is no point in writing new libraries or new algorithms now. There are already out there enough things. As long as you are very clear about your target case, please email me.
In which sector did you that company was in which sector?
Mine?
You were doing some work on recommendation.
Kind of confidential.
Oh,
so-
that's right.
Any other thing I like to share?
So how do, like, again, I'm one of the very early birds for big data.
Yeah.
How do we decide upon the data sources? Is it based on just what is our end
What is your
target?
product? That you tell me, then I tell you.
So we are into retail,
Okay.
retail area.
Retail what? Are you trying to sell seeds? What is it exactly?
So we want
Potato chips? What is it?
and diversified clients in different areas, but
Okay.
primary objective is to sell online.
Okay.
So and
Something like our new, what is that? Fresh,
Big basket.
big basket.
something like that.
Something like that.
Yes.
You have tried Big Basket, please do. It's an excellent. And I like to promote those kind of things, encourage those kind of things. BigBasket.com is awesome. They deliver on time and the quality is excellent and the pricing is nothing more than what you can find it in other stores. Yeah, BigBasket.com.
So yeah, I want more customers to visit to Big Basket than say.
Advertisement is a major thing, and then how you reach your customers. For example, I'll tell you a simple example. We are in Kukatpalli. In Kukatpalli, one rickshaw fellow stays, and then one Mercedes-Benz owner also stays. So there are pockets. This is where classification and the clustering comes into picture when it comes to art. So I'm going to classify that this is above middle class, this is middle class, this is, and whenever based on his annual income, based on number of vehicles he's having, 4-wheeler, 2-wheeler, I get this data from registration office, maybe from Kukatpalli registrar's office, for example, and I categorize them, classify them, and my advertisements. There's a classic example. One company has sent email at $2 per email in those days. $2 per email, not email, regularly. It's a nice flashy card. And for the entire state residents, costed them $1 million. But at the end, they realized $200,000 as profit. This is one case. Second case, they did some analytics and then found only a few pockets where the target audience are, targeted customers are, and next time they spent very less amount and the profit was $1 million. So you need to see that is where analytics come into picture. In both cases, yes, you are on the profit side. But whereas first case you spend $2 for postage and the card and address finding, and you can also purchase addresses from US Post Office at a cost. US Post Office sells the addresses. So research needs to be done. How to pick your customer. Thank you, Siddharth.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation.
Oh, excellent. It's a nice thing. Okay.